Namo Mirabutsu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, in whichever realms of existence you are, whatever mind states you're in, whatever conditions you're in. As always, you are very welcome to my channel. Today, it was such a lovely day here in the West Country of England that I could not resist but to make a video in my garden, giving you another view of the garden that you've not seen previously. And it is my honor today to do the next portion of my reading of Understanding Jodo Shinshu by Eiken Kobai Sensei. The next part is part 2 in my series, so without further ado, I'll get right to it. Part 2, Chapter 1, The Foundation of the Venerable Master Shinran's Teaching. As related in Part 1, the Venerable Master Shinran was 29 years of age when he met Master Honen and selected the way of attaining enlightenment by being born in the Pure Land through the Buddha's power, Teriki Jodomon. The term Teriki used in this phrase is written with the kanji character meaning other and the character for power. Accordingly, it is often understood to mean relying on other people in our everyday life. However, the use of this term is restricted to our spiritual life. In explaining this term, the Venerable Master wrote in the chapter on practice of his Jodo Shinshu, teaching, practice, faith, and attainment, the term Teriki refers to Amida Buddha's power of the primal vow. Letter 10 of the Matosho, light for the latter ages, or lamp for the latter ages, contains the passage, Teriki refers to being free of any calculation. The 13th letter in that same work contains the passage, at any rate. The 13th letter in that work contains the passage, at any rate, Teriki is not having the slightest calculation on the part of the doer, Gyoja. As can be determined from these quotations, everything regarding our spiritual life is to be left in the hands of the primal vow established by Amida Buddha. This is in common with Master Honen's teaching, in which he said that our salvation, wherein we attain the same enlightenment as a Buddha, depends solely on Amida Buddha's power. The term Teriki thus refers to the fact that in the context of spiritual realization, only Amida Buddha's power, contained in the primal vow, is meaningful. For that reason, from here on, the term Teriki will be translated into English as Buddha-centered power. The effort to realize enlightenment through our own efforts is Jiriki, which is written with the kanji characters for self and power, or effort. For this reason, the term Jiriki will be rendered self-centered effort from here on. So, number 1. Deep self-reflection. Determining to leave everything regarding our spiritual life to Buddha-centered power is a truly momentous matter. Indeed it is. As mentioned in part 1, there are many passages in the Venerable Master's writings that demonstrate how deeply he realized how imperfect a human being he was, and how absolutely incapable he felt of eliminating his base passions and entering the realm of enlightenment through his own efforts. If I were to quote all the passages by the Venerable Master that show this awareness, there would be no end to it. But as examples, there are the following in the Shozomatsu Wasan, Japanese poems on the three periods of the true semblance and decay of the Dharma. And this is a quote from the hymns here for a bit. So, outwardly we try to appear wise, good, and diligent, but we are actually filled with nothing but the deceits of greed, anger, and wrong views. How difficult to renounce my evil nature. My mind is like snakes and scorpions, and since even the good I try to do is tainted with the poison of self-centered effort, it must be called the practice of an idiot. My mind is as deceitful as snakes and scorpions, so I am absolutely incapable of performing good deeds. Without the Tathagata's merit transference, how can I not end with shame and repentance? And that's the end of that quote. These verses are based on a passage by Zendo Daishi, 613 to 681 AD, one of the seven patriarchs of Jodo Shinshu, is who Zendo Daishi was. So I'll just read that again without that parenthesis again. These verses are based on a passage by Zendo Daishi in his Kangyo Shijosho commentary on the Meditation Sutra in 4 volumes. This passage is usually translated as follows: do not appear to be wise, good, and diligent, while inwardly false. The above reading expresses what Zendo Daishi wrote. The Venerable Master, however, quoted this passage in the chapter on faith of his Jodo Shinshu and interpreted it in the following way: do not appear wise, good, and diligent, because we are so false inwardly. What Zendo Daishi intended to say was that regardless of how good we may represent ourselves, that appearance is meaningless if it is not accompanied by an associated good within us. If we are filled with greed, anger, dishonesty, and falsehood, regardless of how we may try to do good with our 3 actions, three actions are sango, deeds, words, thoughts. They are nothing more than good mixed with the poison of self-centered effort. They are the practices of an idiot, and absolutely cannot be referred to as true. In other words, Zendo Daishi said that we must perform good mixed with poison and perform the practice of idiots, that we should try to live as sincerely as we can. Let me just read that again, make sure I read that correctly. In other words, Zendo Daishi said that we must not perform good mixed with poison and perform the practice of idiots, that we should try to live as sincerely as we can. The Venerable Master, however, read Zendo Daishi's words, and through his introspection, understood them to mean that we should not try to appear outstanding, because inside we are nothing but lies, and are filled with the base passions of greed, anger, dishonesty, and falsehood. He felt that our base nature was like that of snakes and scorpions. Regardless of how we try to do good with our 3 actions, those actions are nothing more than good mixed with poison, and therefore false, and that there is nothing even resembling truth about them. Some say the Venerable Master interpreted Zendo Daishi's words exactly the opposite of what Zendo Daishi intended, but the Venerable Master, understanding himself But the Venerable Master's understanding of himself was that regardless of how much he tried to do good, what he did was no more than good mixed with poison, and therefore false, and that there was absolutely no truth in anything that he did. In In highly individual readings of classical text like this, the Venerable Master clearly expressed his feeling of absolute insincerity. He showed that truth can only be found in Amida Buddha, and that is what our sole reliance should be. This understanding also deepened his awareness of the ineffectiveness of self-centered effort. He realized that regardless of how he tried, it was all good mixed with poison, and therefore false, and that the only way open for him was leaving everything to Buddha-centered power. This deep reflection and attitude of leaving everything to the working of Amida Buddha is expressed in the 3 poems from the Shozomatsu Wasan already quoted. I believe giving up self-centered effort and entering the world of leaving everything to the working of Amida Buddha is an extremely important state in Jodo Shinshu. Indeed, it is, again. Because the Venerable Master was that sort of person, the Shinjin, that is acceptance of Amida Buddha's primal vow, and the Nembutsu that we recite with our mouth are absolutely not things that depend on our efforts. Rather, because they result solely from Buddha-centered power, we refer to them as the Shinjin of merit transference based on Buddha-centered power, Teriki Eko no Shinjin, and the Nembutsu of the merit transference based on Buddha-centered power, Teriki Eko no Nembutsu. Number 2, the primal vow. As already stated, the primal vow, Hongen, expresses Amida Buddha's desire to save all sentient beings. The Daimyo Ju Kyo, the larger sutra on immeasurable life, lists 48 vows that Amida Buddha made when he was Hanzo Bosatsu, or Dharmakara Bodhisattva. I'm adding that myself, just in case someone's listening that doesn't know the Japanese for Dharmakara Bodhisattva. Anyway, the 18th of these vows was traditionally considered the most important. The word of this 18th vow the wording of this 18th vow is, if, when I attain Buddhahood, all sentient beings in the 10 directions recite my name even 10 times with sincere faith serene, and wish birth in my country, are not born there, may I not attain the supreme and greatest enlightenment. Only those who commit the 5 perversities are excluded. I'll just read that one more time, just because I kind of hesitated there in the midway through. So again, this is the 18th vow. If, when I attain Buddhahood, all sentient beings in the 10 directions who recite my name even 10 times with sincere mind, faith serene, and wish birth in my country, are not born there, may I not attain the supreme and greatest enlightenment. Only those who commit the 5 perversities are excluded. Zendo Daishi considered this 18th vow to be the core of the 48 vows. The original wording of that vow, the original wording of that part of the vow, translated above as recite my name even 10 times, is Naishi Janin, which literally translates to up to 10 thoughts. It was Zendo Daishi who interpreted this to be 10 recitations. And that is why the 18th vow is translated in Jodo Shinshu as it is. Zendo Daishi emphasized birth in the Pure Land through reciting the name of Amida Buddha, Namo Amida Butsu, which is referred to as the Nembutsu. Master Honen accepted this teaching and referred to the 18th vow as the King of Vows. He delved deeply into the thought of birth in the birth in the Pure Land through recitation of Nembutsu, which is central to the 18th vow and emphasized the exclusive practice of reciting the Nembutsu, Senju Nembutsu, in which no practice other than reciting the Nembutsu is necessary. Just going to read that again. I think it's important enough to do so, but I want to just make sure I'm really reading that with the right intonations here, and that it flows really well, because that really needs to. Master Honen accepted this teaching and referred to the 18th vow as the King of Vows. He delved deeply into the thought of birth in the Pure Land through recitation of the Nembutsu, which is central to the 18th vow, and emphasized the exclusive practice of reciting the Nembutsu, Senju Nembutsu, in which no practice other than reciting the Nembutsu is necessary. The Venerable Master accepted this teaching as completely denying the path of sages and various practices, and made the Nembutsu his exclusive practice. As described in Part 1, however, the monks and scholars of the 10 established schools of Bodhidharma, who considered self-centered effort in performing various practices to be what the Buddhist path meant, did not accept that teaching. During the 10th month of 1205 AD, the 9-point Kofuku Temple petition for censure, written by Jokai, described in Part 1, was sent to the imperial court. In the 7th article of that petition, Jokai, I think I pronounced that incorrectly the first time I said that name. So again, in the 7th article of that petition, Jokai stated that Master Honen misunderstood the Nembutsu. He argued that since Amida Buddha established 48 vows, why consider only the 18th vow as the primal vow and make the practice of reciting the Nembutsu, which he considered to be an inferior practice, the only practice? Further, in a work entitled Zeijarin, sorry, apologies from all of my Japanese pronunciation. And that Zeijarin means correcting errors, so I'll just read that again. Further, in a work entitled Zeijarin, Correcting Errors, written in 1212 AD, a monk named Kobin criticized Master Honen's Senjaku Shu, which denies the bodhisattva mind because it requires practice. Kobin pointed out that the 19th vow in one of the vows. Kobin pointed out that the 19th vow is one of the vows on which Master Honen based his teaching, and yet it contains the phrase, arouse the bodhisattva mind and accumulate various merits with sincerity of heart. Such criticism, which is at least outwardly based on the sutras, takes the path of sages' position, which considers religious practices performed through self-centered effort to be the true Buddhist way. The Venerable Master, however, completely denied the various practices position of the path of sages and upheld Master Honen's position of the single practice of reciting Nembutsu. He made that intent very clear in the chapter on the true Buddha land of the Jodo Shinshu, where he wrote, "With regard to the ocean-like vows, there are the true and provisional vows." In other words, the Venerable Master saw that among Amida Buddha's 48 vows, some are true while others are provisional. He then listed the 5 true vows that expressed the Buddha-centered power truth. And they are as follows. 11th vow that absolutely ensures enlightenment, discussed in the chapter on attainment in Jodo Shinshu. 11th vow if, when I attain Buddhahood, humans and devas in my land should not dwell in the definitely assured state and unfailingly reach nirvana, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. The 12th vow that describes immeasurable light, wisdom, discussed in the chapter on Buddhaland. 12th vow, if when I attain Buddhahood, my light should be limited, unable to illuminate at least 100,000 kotis of nayutas of Buddha lands, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. 13th vow that describes immeasurable life, compassion, discussed in the chapter on true Buddha land. 13th vow, if when I attain Buddhahood, my lifespan should be limited even to the extent of 100,000 kotis of nayutas of kalpas, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. The 17th vow, that all Buddhas will recite his name, Namo Amida Butsu, discussed in the chapter on practice. 17th vow, if when I attain Buddhahood, innumerable Buddhas in the lands of the 10 directions should not praise and glorify my name, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. 18th vow, which assures birth in the Pure Land of those with sincere mind, faith sincere, and wish birth in the Pure Land, described in the chapter on faith. 18th vow, see above, as previously read. Jokei and Kobin criticized Master Honen by stating that among the 48 vows, Amida Buddha is in his causal state as, let me just start that again. Kokai and Kobin criticized Master Honen by stating that the 48 vows, that among the 48 vows, Amida Buddha in his causal state as Hozo Basatsu did not vow only birth in the Pure Land through recitation of this Nembutsu Ojo, but that he also vowed birth in the Pure Land through various practices, Shogyo Ojo. Specifically, Kobin criticized Master Honen by quoting the 19th vow and pointing out that it is an example of birth in the land through various practices. The Venerable Master considered the 19th and 20th vows to be the vows that express the provisional self-centered effort point of view, and described them in the chapter on the transformed land of his Jodo Shinshu. The 19th vows, the 19th vows birth in the Pure Land through various practices, Shogyo Ojo, and the 20th vows birth in the Pure Land through reciting the Nembutsu of self-centered effort, Jiriki Nembutsu. I believe explaining the 48 vows in terms of true and provisional vows, as the Venerable Master did, completely diffuses Jokei and Kobin's arguments. Incidentally, in most cases where the Venerable Master uses terms such as primal vow, hongen, and oath vow, seigen, he is referring to the 18th vow. Number 3, the 3 Pure Land Sutras. The 3 Pure Land Sutras, Jodo Shinshu, are, again, apologies for my Japanese pronunciation always. So the 3 Pure Land Sutras, Jodo Shinshu, are Muryoju Kyo, Sutra on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, also referred to as Daikyo Larger Sutra, in 2 volumes. Kanmuryoju Kyo, Sutra on Meditation on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, also referred to as Kanjo Meditation Sutra, in one volume. Amida-kyo, Sutra on Amida Buddha, also referred to as Shokyo, Smaller Sutra, and Amida Sutra, in one volume. The selection of these sutras was made by Master Honen. The Venerable Master interpreted these 3 Pure Land Sutras in a very individualistic way. This interpretation, as previously explained, can be considered to be in response to criticisms that Jokei and Kobun made to Master Honen's position. In other words, in Article 6 of the Kofuku Temple Petition for Censure, Joiki made the 3 meritorious acts, Sanpuku, described in the Meditation Sutra, the basis for his assertion that that birth in the Pure Land through various practices, Shogyo Ojo, is advocated even in the 3 Pure Land Sutras. In his Zei Jaren, Correcting Errors, Kobun criticized Master Honen because of his Senjaku Shu. Let me just start that paragraph again. In his Zei Jaren, Correcting Errors, Kobun criticized Master Honen because in his Shinjaku Shu, Master Honen refuted the practice of visualizing the Buddha, Kanbutsu Gyo, as stated that those who take pleasure in visualizing the Buddha and do not recite the Buddha's name of Namo Amida Butsu turn their back on Amida Buddha's primal vow and disagree with Shakyamuni Buddha's intent. Kobun pointed out that the title of the sutra was Sutra on Meditation on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, and not Sutra on reciting the name of the Buddha of Immeasurable Life. That being the case, he argued, it must differ from Amida's primal vow, or that Shakyamuni, while discussing Amida's primal vow, was in error about it. As Jokei and Kobun pointed out, the Meditation Sutra does recommend practices such as the 3 contemplations, Sangan, and the 3 meritorious acts, Sanpuku, and meditating on the Buddha, Kanbutsu. So their criticisms are not without merit. The explanation that shows their interpretation is not faithful to Master Honen's understanding is referred to as revealing the truth in the 3 sutras, implicitly and explicitly. Sangyo Onken Jaku. Master Honen's position is that the larger sutra teaches the truth just as it is, and based on the intent of the 18th vow, is the sacred work that explains the Nembutsu of Buddha-centered power, Teriki Nembutsu. It does not have an implicit or explicit position. Let me read that again, just to make sure I read it right and got the right emphases. I'm going to read the sentence before as well, actually. As Jokei and Kobun point out, the Meditation Sutra does recommend practices. I think I might have read that the wrong first time, so that's why I was a little confused. So let me going back to that earlier paragraph there before the one I just read. As Jokei and Kobun pointed out, the Meditation Sutra does recommend practices such as the 3 contemplations, Sangan, and the 3 meritorious acts Sampuku and meditating on the Buddha Kanbutsu, so their criticisms are not without merit. The explanation that shows their interpretation is not faithful to Master Honen's understanding is referred to as revealing the truth in the 3 sutras implicitly and explicitly, Sangyo Onken Jaku. Master Honen's position is that the larger sutra teaches the truth just as it is, and based on the intent of the 18th vow, is the sacred work that explains the Nembutsu of Buddha-centered power. Teriki Nembutsu. It does not have an implicit or explicit position. The Meditation Sutra, however, is considered to express the thought. The Meditation Sutra, however, is considered to express the truth through expedient means. This sutra is considered to express the truth using the principle of describing expedient means obviously, kenzetsu. This means explaining the 18th. This means explaining the intent of the 19th vow, which is the practice of 2 goods fixed and dispersed, Josan Nizen. Josan Nizen. The reason for Josan Nizen is to explain the Nembutsu of Buddha-centered power based on the 18th vow. This is referred to as the principle of expressing dimly seen truth, Onsho. Finally, the Amida Sutra is also centered on, finally, the Amida Sutra is also considered to express the truth through expedient means. The principle of expedient means expressly obvious in this, the principle of expedient means expressly obvious in this sutra expresses, so let me just say that again because it's actually a quote that it's referring to. So I'm going to actually say the quotes for this sentence. The quote, principle of expedient means expressed obviously, unquote, in this sutra expresses the intent of the 20th vow, which is, quote, reciting the Nembutsu through self-centered effort, unquote, and, quote, and the, quote, principle of the truth expressed in an absolute, and the, quote, principle of the truth expressed in an obscure way, unquote, expresses the intent of the 18th vow, namely reciting the Nembutsu through Buddha-centered power. I'm really tripping over my words now. I do apologize. I'm going to read that whole sentence and paragraph once again just to make sure it comes through clearly with the correct emphases. So the quote, principle of expedient means expressed obviously in this sutra expresses the intent of the 20th vow, which is, quote, reciting the Nembutsu through self-centered effort, unquote, and the quote, principle of the truth expressed in an obscure way, unquote, expresses the intent of the 18th vow, namely reciting the Nembutsu through Buddha-centered power. This explanation of, quote, revealing the truth implicitly and explicitly is similar to the division of the 48 vows into those that are true and those that are provisional, and can be considered the Venerable Master's counter-argument to criticisms of Master Honen's Buddha-centered power teaching by other Buddhist schools. Many of Master Honen's other disciples also attempted to counter the criticisms of other Buddhist schools, but they did so based on self-centered effort path sage's position. The Venerable Master must be considered to have taken the most extreme Buddha-centered position, and thus was most faithful in upholding Honen Shonen's teaching. Just gonna check here where we are here. I think we'll read 4 and 5, and that'll be good for this section. Okay, so 4. The purpose of the Buddha's appearance in the world. This is very good timing for me to read this. That's referring to another video I just recently made and posted with in a Dharma dialogue with Kyokan. So very good timing for me to be reading this again. So number 4, the purpose of the Buddha's appearance in the world. As the Venerable Master Shinran wrote in the chapter on teaching of his Jodo Shinshu, Now, if I were to reveal the true teaching, it is the larger sutra on the Buddha of immeasurable life. He considers the sutra to be the sutra that expresses the truth. A little later, the Venerable Master asks, how do we know this sutra was the great matter for which Shakyamuni appeared in this world? He then quotes Ananda's words from the larger sutra. Today, O world-honored one, you seem filled with joy. Your body is pure and your face radiates a brightness that is like an image in a mirror without blemishes. Further, your august appearance is magnificent and beyond measure. I have never seen you look as majestic as you do today. O world-honored one, today you seem to dwell in the marvelous meditative state, that you dwell in the world of enlightenment where all base desires have been destroyed, and as the eye of wisdom that lights up the world of delusion, you are blessed with the virtue of leading others. As the most honored in this world, you dwell in the realm of wisdom, and as the most honored in all the worlds, you put into practice the virtue of the Tathagatas. This passage is referred to as realizing the essence of the 5 virtues, Gotoku Zuigin, because Ananda sees the 5 virtues in Shakyamuni Buddha. There are other translations of the Larger Sutra with different titles that refer to the same 5 virtues. The Venerable Master then states in the conclusion to the chapter on teaching, accordingly, this is clear evidence that the Larger Sutra reveals the true teaching. In other words, Shakyamuni Buddha preached the Larger Sutra with the 5 virtues that he did not usually reveal, and that is why it is considered the teaching that appeared in this world to preach. Yes. So I was wondering, when I started to read that, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. And for some reason, I just never got that before just now. Anyway, let me read that again. In other words, Shakyamuni Buddha preached the Larger Sutra with the 5 virtues that he did not usually reveal, and that is why it is considered to be and that is why it is considered the teaching that he appeared in this world to preach. Regarding this, in the Shoshinge, Hymn of True Shinjin, the Venerable Master wrote, the reason for the Tathagata's appearance in the world was to preach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. Further, in the Songo Shinzo Meimon, collection of comments on the object of reverence, which explains Shoshenge, he wrote, the phrase, the reason for the Tathagata's appearance in the world, means that the Dharma that Shakyamuni appeared in this world of the various Buddhas to teach was to preach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. The sole reason Shakyamuni appeared in the world of the various Buddhas was to teach about Amida Buddha's ocean-like vow taught in the single vehicle, Larger Sutra. As we can see in this passage, which the Venerable Master wrote in his later years, the term Tathagata was not limited to Shakyamuni Buddha, but referred to all Buddhas, and that the purpose of all Buddhas appearing in the world was to preach the largest sutra, which explains Amida Buddha's primal vow. Earlier scholar monks asserted that the Lotus Sutra, Hokkekyo, earlier scholar monks asserted that the Lotus Sutra, Hokkekyo, is the true sutra that Amida Buddha appeared in this world to preach. They also asserted that the sutras used in the Jodo Shinshu teachings are not completely true, that rather they are only a temporary truth, and even urged that they be discarded. Thankfully, they were not, and thankfully they could not be discarded. The Tendai and Nichiren schools of Buddha Dharma consider the Lotus Sutra to be the sutra that Shakyamuni appeared in this world to preach, but as already mentioned in our Jodo Shinshu school, the largest sutra is the sutra that explains the truth and is considered the sutra that Shakyamuni appeared in this world to proclaim. Let me just read that last bit again. The Tendai and Nichiren schools of Buddha Dharma consider the Lotus Sutra to be the sutra that Shakyamuni appeared in this world to preach. But as already mentioned, in our Jodo Shinshu school, the largest sutra is the sutra that explains the truth and is considered the sutra that Shakyamuni Buddha appeared in the world to proclaim. I think I'm going to leave it there. It's been over 40 minutes now, so I'm going to leave it there, and because this next part, number 5, is kind of long, and then I'll go into the next bits after that. So so thank you so much for listening. As always, this is a great honor for me to be able to read Eiken Kobai Sensei's works with his permission and enthusiastic support, actually, which I'm even more grateful for. And I owe a great debt to Eiken Kobai Sensei for in many ways in my Jodo Shinshu path. So just very grateful. We'll leave it there. So I'll just say some Nimbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nama 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 Nama. All right. Thank you again, and until next time.